Hello, everyone. This is the Samurai Brothers, episode 75. And Matthew, there's been quite a bit of championship events that went on this past weekend. And so we will be talking about those today. And then we'll be previewing another championship event that's going to be coming up this next weekend. So we were following the Haru Basho of Ozumo, and the event has concluded. We have us a winner, and we actually are going to have a promotion as well. So, Matthew, let's get right into the nitty gritty of what all happened over this last week. Now, we had predicted that Kirishima would win and that Hoshoryu would end up taking the Jun Yusho. So let's see if we were right on that. So we left off with that Kirishima was the leader, along with three Maegashira. And so going into day 9, let's see how everyone did here. So one leader fell off the pack, and that was let me see here. That was Takanosho. But the other three did win. So Kirishima, Kotoshoho, Gonoyama were leading at 8-2 after, or I'm sorry, 8-1 after day 9. Hoshoryu and Aonishiki and Kotozakura also prevailed. And with Aonishiki struggling this Basho, likely due to an injury, 4-5 after day 9. Hoshoryu at 7-2 after day 9 as well. And then getting into day 10, we had another person from the leaderboard fall off, Koto Shoho. He lost his match, his second loss of the tournament, while Hoshoryu, Kotozakura, Aonishiki, and Kirishima all won. And then we saw that Takayasu, Matthew, after such a great start, because I think he was 6-1, and then he's now on a 3-match losing streak. So kind of being regular Takayasu-esque sumo in the second half of the Basho. Any thoughts about that?
His problem is he starts off strong and then he has problems in the
The home
later
stretch?
on.
Yeah. So unfortunate there. But Kirishima and Gonoyama lead the pack 9-1 after day 10. So then we get into day 11. So then what happens here? Gonoyama loses, but that's because they had him go against Kirishima. So obviously the two leaders go against each other, and obviously that's kind of to whittle down who might actually be in the lead. So for Gonoyama, that means he drops off. He falls back to 9-2 with Koto Shoho and Hoshoryu, who won their matches. And then Aonishiki loses again, so now he's 5-6 at this point. Kotozakura, though, doing better, wins to go he's 7-4 at this point. And then Takayasu lost again, but that's because he went against Hoshoryu. So now he's in danger of losing his rank at this point. But then one person who's having an actually good Sanyaku debut, Atami Fuji, he's now 7-4. And Matthew, as we both know well, a lot of times Shin Sanyaku in general don't tend to do very well. But I think a lot of that, though, can be attributed to the fact that Atami Fuji really turned it up because he beat Onosato on day 2. But what was also key was the fact that he beat both the Ozeki. So standing at 7-4 at that point is actually very, very good for him.
Yeah, well, and then on top of that, he may not have actual Sanyaku experience, but he's been in the upper Maegashira multiple times. So he's kind of had that experience of being up there.
Well,
So
and then on top of that, he's also had experience with. He's actually been in 2 playoffs. So in
So
fact,
so
yeah,
it's not his first rodeo.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And actually, one of those playoffs was the last Basho, which he lost to Aonishiki. So that was very interesting. So kind of going into then day 12. So here's where things get interesting. And this match was inevitable based on the rankings and such, but it was the clash of Hoshoryu and Kirishima, and this was definitely going to be one of the biggest matches of the tournament. And Matthew, Kirishima for the most part looked to me pretty dominant. I mean, Hoshoryu tried to do some things here and there, but Matthew, your thoughts about that match?
Yeah, that it was a match where this was one of those situations where these two have kind of peaked at different times. Kirishima was the early leader in their rivalry and was doing better, and then Hoshoryu overtook him. So in that regards, he'd been more dominant, but now Kirishima's back to form and looking good. So
Yeah. And so Kirishima now draws almost even in their rivalry. So they've had 24 actual matches. It says 13 and 12 though, because Kirishima does have a Fusensho win over Hoshoryu. So at 13 and 11 though, the rivalry is pretty even right now.
yeah, it's like just a slight tip in the
Favor
wrong
of
direction.
Hoshoryu. Yeah. So other matches, we see that Kotozakura scores his 8th win on day 12, so he secures his Ozeki rank without the need to worry about Kadoban. Um, Daieisho upsets Aonishiki, so Aonishiki is now in trouble. Never mind the fact that he missed out on double digits for the first time in his Sekitori career. He's now at 5-7, with the danger of being Kadoban and Makekoshi for the first time in his sumo career. Then we've got Takayasu losing again. So he's now on a 5-match losing streak, at 6-6. Some other things that we have. Wakamoto Haru is definitely vacating the Komusubi slot at 2-10. After losing to Abi. His brother, Wakataka Kage, at 7-5, struggling with an injury, but still trying to fight on. And Koto Shoho trying to keep pace with Kirishima, who he's now at 10-2. Any thoughts on those before we go to day 13?
Well, it's like I keep saying, the one basho that Koto Shoho the one basho that Koto Shoho won in was the problem there was that he was
Lower.
uh they weren't matching him against the higher level people soon enough. So it seems like
Right.
since then, in order to avoid some controversy, they've been kind of a little bit more cognizant. They didn't do with him what they did with Takeru Fuji. Takeru Fuji, the one time when he won that basho, actually was going against the top people. So
Yep.
he had an easy first week, and his second week was not
Yeah,
easy,
it
but
was, it was pretty tough.
he still was able to endure. So
Yep. Okay, so we're going into day 13. So what do we see so far? So day 13, where are we at? Okay. Gonoyama, unfortunately, is on a losing streak after having lost, that the day, 11, match to Kirishima. So now he's 9-4, and pretty much at this point out of the race. And that's because also what we see here is that Atami Fuji scores his 8th win. So Kachikoshi for him. So, I would say that that's definitely a great basho. The fact that you can score, Kachikoshi in your Sanyaku debut. Takayasu, again, not doing great. He's now on a 6-match losing streak, having lost to Takanosho on day 13, and possibly having to vacate the Sekiwake slot if he doesn't turn things around now at 6-7. Kirishima defeats Oho to score his 12th win and pretty much knock out all the 9-4 wrestlers. So it's now down to Kirishima at 12-1. Hoshoryu also wins to keep pace, and by doing that, he also knocks Kotoshoho down to 10-3. So now Kirishima has a 2-win cushion going into day 14. And then we also have the Ozeki matchup, which Aonishiki prevails over Kotozakura. So Aonishiki staves off Makekoshi for at least one day. Any thoughts, Matthew, before we go on to day 14?
Um, well, clearly a situation where Aonishiki wasn't going to go down without a fight, and yeah, Kirishima was basically in the driver's seat at that point, and he and he and the other two 10 win guys at this point, he's got an advantage over. So, and then
Yep.
mathematically, I think it was at the point where mathematically he won one more match, it was over at this point.
Yep. So let's see where we're at so far. Day 14, we are going in and we are finding Wakataka Kage having scored his 8th win, and he was pretty he looked in pain after his day 13 win. So he obviously pulls out having secured his Kachikoshi. Um, and based on past examples we've seen, no one has ever been denied a Sanyaku slot if they've gone 8-7 at the M1 East position. So based on that, we should be seeing Wakataka Kage back in the Sanyaku next Basho. And then other things that happened, matches after that. Oho defeats Yoshino Fuji. So Yoshino Fuji goes Makekoshi for the first time in his career. Wakamoto Haru gets a 3rd win of the Basho after defeating Takanosho. And here's a crucial match that happened. Atami Fuji defeats Kotoshoho to hand him his 4th loss, which basically knocks Kotoshoho out of the Yusho race because Kirishima is 12-1 at this point. And then Ichi Yamamoto defeats Takayasu. So that is a 7th straight loss for him, and handing him his Makekoshi after, he had so much potential, Matthew, to stay up there. And I'll ask your opinion about that after the last 2 matches that we review. Aonishiki and Kirishima, and Aonishiki seem to be in form, back to form as he normally has been for this match, and he does have a winning record against Kirishima, and it proved to be true. So he hands Kirishima his 2nd loss of the Basho, and Aonishiki is 7-7, so a possible chance to save his Ozeki rank on Senshu Raku. But Kirishima, however, ran into some luck because Kotozakura looked like he was pretty much in charge of this match against Hoshoryu and executed a Sotogake to put the Yokozuna on his back and essentially finish out, pretty much end the Yusho race, because Hoshoryu also drops to 10-4. So there's no chance that either he nor Koto Shoho can catch Kirishima. Matthew, thoughts on the day 14 action?
It would have been nice if Kirishima had actually done it himself instead of other people doing it, but he'd at that point he'd secured it, and uh it was you had that little heartwarming interview where he said, it's like I wanted to win this basho so that my daughter in the interview he said I want to win it so that my daughter had the opportunity to say banzai.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then with Watataka Kage, it's like, you know what? He got his win. So it's at that point, there's no
Yeah.
once you get the Kachikoshi, it's like and you're in a beneficial position, there's no point in trying to injure yourself further. So
Yep.
he made the wise decision at that point.
Yep. And then what about the disappointment of Takayasu?
It's like we've talked about. He unfortunately choked and does good in the first week and then chokes on the second week. That just seems to
Yep.
be his pattern.
All right. So day 15 action. So we'll talk a little bit more of some stuff here. So what we are seeing, let me make sure that I get the some of the notes out because I do want to make sure. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. So, in addition to what happens on day 15, so a bit of some special prizes as well, some special prize talk. So, Fuji Seun, who was in his debut Basho, managed to get his 10th win, which is that's pretty much de facto that if you can score 10 wins in your Makuuchi debut, that you get the Kanto Sho, so which he did. So, congratulations to him. Tamawashi managed to get his 5th win of the tournament. He obviously didn't do great, M9, so he'll fall a few slots, but I was really kind of worried that, he might do really, really poorly and fall to Juryo, but it looks like he's still got a little bit of fight left in him.
Well, and then on top of that, with that win, he tied for what, eighth, I think.
He's either tied for 8th or, well, yeah, I know he's already passed Musashi Maru. You might be right. I think he might be on his way to it's either Kiseno Sato or Koto Shogiku that he's gonna pass next.
Yeah, it's like it is funny how it's like just his longevity, he's still marching on.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So for that, and then let's get into next. Koto Shoho does manage to get a win, so he finishes 11-4, and that guarantees him at least a share of the Junyu show. And for that, also he was awarded the Kanto show, so fighting spirit for him. And then one that we're going to want to talk about later on, Fujinokawa going into day 15 at 7-7 against Oho, also 7-7, managed to get a win. And, he looked pretty, he was out there ready to just fight it out. And he got a Suinage win against Oho. And for that, now I read this article saying about it. Normally, it's like because he had defeated both Yokozuna that he would get a Shukunsho, but it sounded like for what they felt that because of all the technique he was using, they gave him the technique award. And obviously the what he had to do was just get Kachikoshi. So for that, he got the Kachikoshi and the Ginosho. So congratulations to him, and we're going to talk about him after the final result. Let me see here. Takayasu did manage to finally break his losing streak on day 15 at 7-8 against Atami Fuji. Not that it really matters, though. They will swap places for sure. Takayasu will probably most likely fall down to Komusubi, Atami Fuji going up to Sekiwake. Koto Zakura defeats Kirishima to hand him his third loss of the Basho. Regardless, though, Kirishima with the Yusho gets the Shukunsho, outstanding performance. And then in this last the match, Hoshoryu with the Jun Yusho on the line and Yokozuna Pride versus Aonishiki with Kachikoshi on the line. But Hoshoryu executes a kakenage to defeat Aonishiki for the first time in his career. Aonishiki, unfortunately, getting the make koshi. So before we get into Fujinokawa and then some of the other stuff, Matthew, just thoughts on how this Basho ended up.
So with regards to Aonishiki, what he needs to do is he needs to a very important thing. You know, when you see sumo wrestlers who go in and try to fight through an injury, and we saw a lot of them. This Basho, the important thing they're trying to do is not re-aggravate anything. And we saw multiple guys re-aggravate injuries and having to take multiple days off or just go out completely. An important thing with Atami Fuji, it's like even though he lost a bunch of matches, he did not re-aggravate his injury. So the important thing he needs to do is rest up as much as he can, and then once he's healthy, get back to practicing and just be ready to make sure that he overcomes that Kadoban status.
You talk about Aonishiki?
Yeah, Aonishiki. Who did I say?
Atami Fuji.
Aonishiki.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds fair.
With Atami Fuji, this is clearly a long time coming because he's been an elevator Rikishi for a while, and he's finally figured out how to use that size to his advantage because he's currently the largest guy in Makunochi right now. So he finally figured out, okay, this is what I need to do in order to to work things out.
Okay. And then how about Kirishima and Kotozakura and Hoshoryu?
Well, there's been a lot of times where Kotozakura has been on that cruise control. Aside from that one point where he got the Jun Yusho and the Yusho, and then people were saying, oh, he's gonna one more and he's probably gonna get Yokozuna, and then I think that was the Basho he went Kadoban actually.
Yeah. That seems to be a
yeah, so it looks like he's building himself up to where maybe he'll be able to actually make a run for next Basho. But then, of course, most likely Aonishi's gonna be healthy and is gonna be able to make a run. And Hoshoryu definitely made a run as well. Hopefully Onosato's healed up to where so it's gonna be looking pretty good because you're gonna have healthy, just off of a Basho re-promoted Kirishima. You're hopefully gonna have healthy Aonishiki, healthy Onosato. Looks like healthy Kotozakura, and then also looks like it's gonna be an interesting Basho next Basho if because it looks like everyone's is now at a point where they're at peak form, and then you're also gonna have dark horses like Atami Fuji and
well, Koto Shoho could be back for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Koto Shoho is going to be in the mix as well, and of course, with that, he's got the convenience of he's stablemates with Kotozakura, so doesn't have to face him.
Yep.
That is an advantage of having upper level stablemates and not having to face them unless you're in a playoff situation, which I don't remember the last time there was that kind of a situation.
I think the last playoff situation we saw was Takanohana and Takanonami back in '98. So it's been a long time.
That's almost
28 years ago.
Yeah, so almost 30 years ago, essentially.
And
then Oh, it's still surprising that Fujinokawa, since you
Yep.
mentioned, it's surprising that Fujinokawa, because small guys generally just don't do well against the bigger guys because the bigger guys are most of the time about as technical as you, and when they're as technical as you, it's size makes them better than you essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
here
right.
he was going out there and hanging, and a quarter of his wins was against the two Yokozuna, getting to Kimboshi, and I don't remember the last small guy who could hang like that.
No, because obviously we had Enho up there for a while.
Yeah, but
Um,
Inho was not on that level.
no, he was not. The
Yeah,
highest he
Inho
got
was
was
not at that
M4.
level. Uda at his base, not at that level.
Yeah, Uda's
Not at
not
his
really
best.
a small guy anymore either.
Mainomi, not at that level. Midori Fuji, not at that level. None of those guys, as much as you like to cheer the plucky underdog, those guys were not at that level. Fujinokawa somehow it's like we expected him to be cannon fodder. It's like when you're the upper Maegashira, you're either swimming with the sharks or you're getting eaten by them.
Well, here's one thing I can say. He beat both. So out of the 8 Sanyaku, he beat both the Yokozuna and both the Komusubi. He lost to both the Sekiwake and both of the Ozeki. So he had a 500 winning percentage against Sanyaku. That's pretty good. So we need to move on to the next subject. But before we do, it was announced that the judging department was holding what they call an extraordinary meeting after the conclusion of the Basho. And what we do know is that whenever an extraordinary meeting has been called by the judging department, there has not been any denials of a promotion to the next level. So Kirishima, we should be seeing the return of Ozeki Kirishima in the Natsubasho in May. So big congratulations to him. He didn't really lose form that much, Matthew, because the lowest he fell to was M2 East. So he was able to hang out with the Joey Jean and the Sanyaku. In fact, most of his bashos after his fall from Ozeki have been in the Sanyaku. So congratulations to him about that.
Yep.
So we'll have to move pretty quickly on this. So Matthew, D1 wrestling championships have been concluded. And to no one's surprise, not Oklahoma State, Penn State wins it again. However, David Taylor making some noise with Oklahoma State. And there was some interesting things to see about Oklahoma State because two true freshmen winning the national championships. Matthew, I think we may have something. Oklahoma State could finally be coming back, in the next few years. Could they possibly dethrone Penn State?
I think it's very likely because, in addition to those champions, most of the team are younger. What was it, like 5 or 6 of those guys are freshmen? This is kind of that formula that you had. It's very similar to what John Smith had going for him with that run from
The run was from 03 to 06.
yeah, that 03 to 06 run where he had these core of guys of Jared Rochel, Johnny Hendricks, um uh I forget
Steve
who
Moko.
uh Mako's an interesting one. He actually transferred from Iowa.
Mm.
So he was one of those rare exceptions of a guy who transferred from pre-portal and was actually able to maintain his eligibility.
Yep.
But he was able to do that, and uh but he was definitely a part of that formula where so you had those you had like those 5 or 6 core guys who were the part the main reason, because they were multiple time All-Americans, multiple time NCAA champions, and they were these long-term investments that started out there early and then just kept it up. And
So
just
here's an interesting thing. So Penn State actually broke the event record again, their own record, with 181 and a half team points. However, this time they had 8 All-Americans instead of 10. So they must have really put up some bonus points with that.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm wondering if the points have changed over time, because Gable had didn't or weren't there records set during the Gable era that like stood
Yeah.
for a while until they were broken by Kale's
Yeah, before
teams.
they
And
yeah.
I'm just wondering if the one record that still stands is the 9-peat. Kale's, I think the most Kale has gotten is 6.
No, this is Kale's new record at 5. And actually this is the first um this is the first string of consecutive championships that is more than 4 since the Iowa 6-peat that saw Gable's retirement and transition to Jim Zaleski, and that was from 95 to 2000.
Okay,
So this is the first consecutive string of championships by a school that's longer than 4, because you had Oklahoma State did it in 03 to 06, Penn State 2011 to 2014, Penn State again 2016 to 2019. So Penn State does have a chance to tie that 6-peat next year, unless somehow Oklahoma State can really turn it up. But yeah, just Penn State did have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 finalists, and they ended up winning 4 of those. So obviously the dominance of Penn State continues. However, second place was Oklahoma State. Third place was Nebraska. Iowa did finish 4th. But one thing I noticed, Matthew, is I don't think Iowa had any finalists. So I don't know. What would you say to that? They end up, oh, sorry, they did have a finalist who took second. However, um, you know, seems like they still have a long road.
yeah, the reality is Brands has been trying to function the way, the way
The way
he
that he
has,
has.
but it's clearly not good enough in what's been the Kale era and could very well become the David Taylor era as well. So it's well, and if you think about it, an extension of the Penn State success could be considered David Taylor as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, because he is a product of that program.
Yep.
So it's ultimately going to go to Oklahoma State, but it's kind of also part of Kale's legacy as well. So, yep. But we're in an interesting era, and and here's a huge advantage that going forward Oklahoma State's going to always have. Let's face it, the Big 12 is a weaker wrestling conference than the Big 10. Mm-hmm. They will. They got all 10 people through. They will probably most likely always get their 10 people through, because they've got just enough to whatever. Whatever they've got enough power rankings to, which is how the NCAAs or the apportionment is determined to get everyone through.
Well, and actually this time they did get everyone through, and they had, of their 10, 2 didn't make it through, but so that means that they had the same number of All-Americans as Penn State this time.
Right.
So, and actually they did have a third champion, and they had a 4th finalist. So, again, like you're saying, they are looking the future is bright for Oklahoma State. We could finally see a new, it's just a new era that we have going on there. So it'd be interesting to see what the awards are going to look like. But yeah, that and just the following years. So with that being said, we have about a minute left to go. Matthew, both you and I will be competing at the US Sumo Nationals. This will be our first outing at that tournament since 2024, where you placed top 6 in the lightweight, and then I placed, I believe it was top 12 in the open weight. But should be interesting, Matthew. You're gonna have Edobo in there. I've seen I don't know that I've seen anyone.
Kizart's also in there.
Yeah, Justin Kizarts. So it should be interesting to see how this tournament's going to go, but hopefully we see some success again for Sequoia.
You're not open. You're not old enough to do that open.
Yeah, the Open Masters. Well, next year.
Next year.
Yep.
Well, it's unfortunate too because there's only like 5 people, so you would have had a chance.
Yep. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will have to conclude today's action. But again, congratulations to Kirishima for winning the Yusho and earning promotion back to Ozeki. Congrats to Penn State and Oklahoma State for their successes, and hopefully we're going to have some successes of our own this coming weekend. So until then, we want to thank you all for watching the Samurai Brothers podcast. And until then, take care.